Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome back at the second APAC Higher EdTech Innovation Summit. This is a 3-day education summit, and today is a day 2. The first 2 days, yesterday and today, is dedicated to higher education, and tomorrow, day 3, we will be dealing with the K-12 and the school education. So yesterday we had in the inaugural session the government policymakers talking about on the policy front, the education roadmap, the direction education is taking. We had the director of AICT, director of CBSE, different education secretaries from different states talking about the education directions in their regions. Then we had a host of panel discussions. Just now, we finished a panel discussion of the directors of different IITs and IIMs, and we had panel discussion on NAP. We had panel discussion on blended learning, industry academia collaboration on different topics. So before I introduce the very esoteric set of panelists who are there today, perhaps it makes sense to mention the industry partners who have supported us for this event. We have been supported by Microsoft as a technology partner, Samsung as a display partner, Avaya as a digital transformation partner, Yash Technologies as a gold partner, True Scholar as a credential partner, and Intercell as an associate partner. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for this session on improving accessibility of education. We have with us Dr. Ashwini Kumar Sharma, Vice Chancellor of Symbiosis Skills and Professional University. Welcome, Dr. Ashwini. We have with us Professor B.A. Satyanarayana. He's a Vice Chancellor of C.V. Raman Global University, Bhubaneswar. Welcome, Dr. Professor
Good afternoon,
Satyanarayana.
please. Good afternoon.
We have with us Dr. Sujata Shahi, Vice Chancellor of IIM University.
Namaskar.
Welcome, Dr. Shahi. We have with us Dr. Shashmita Shamanto, Vice Chancellor of KIIT deemed to be University. Welcome, Dr. Shamanto. And we have with us Dr. Praful Kumar Udani, Director General of CVM University. Welcome, Dr. Udani.
Okay, my pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we would like to start maybe with Professor Shamanto. The first question that I would like to ask is, how can higher education institutions, how are they sort of leveraging technology for a smoother accessibility, especially post-pandemic? We all know a hybrid kind of learning model has emerged. And in this hybrid learning model, a combination of physical and online, how are education institutions leveraging technology for more smooth accessibility, if I may say? You are on mute. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Perhaps in last 2 years, many times in many forums, we all have discussed on this topic, and we all are coming to some conclusion at some point of time. Before 6 months, perhaps we all were discussing that the present education model is being followed in academic institutions. It may not exist, or it will come in a different evolutionary way. But after 6 months, each one of us in academic institution realized that perhaps the model we all are following in all the academic institutions across the globe, perhaps it is one of the best model, and it is being accepted more positively than anything else prevailed during this pandemic, because this pandemic pressurized and crisis was created. The students, the faculties, and all the stakeholders in each level they accepted the digital method. And I hope most of the institutions have started their physical classes. And this time we find the students with much more excitement in the class itself. And we find the students are more interested to get engaged. But still, somewhere at some place of time or at some um, places or with some individuals, maybe it is individual centric, I can say. It is not the mass consent or mass aspiration till now. But if I come to individual level, some of the students at some point of time, maybe they are not interested to continue the lecture method of education further. And till now what I have realized, that percentage will come around 1 to 10%. Some till now I hope some are confused. Out of those 10%, 5-6% are confused whether they will go for online or they will go for offline. 3-4% students are having, I had made one study for that, I'm saying this percentage. 3-4% of the students, they are saying that they are much interested for the online type of learning, because they want to attend the classes being in their comfort zone. They don't want to come out of their comfort zone, sit in the class, learn for 3 to 6 hours. That they are not interested for. Maybe because I think after this COVID pandemic, of course we all are going for the offline level of offline type of classes. Digitization has become the core of each one of the university. I cannot say that digitization was not existing previously, because we are going in a very fast rate towards digitization in last 10 years. Those 2 years have accelerated that speed. They have these 2 years have pressurized us to accelerate our speed. And after this pandemic, there will be two types of education existing in this globe. We are listening to our honorable prime minister just before few days, where he was insisting on digital education system to be adopted in this country by all the universities and the institutions. And the inclusiveness in the education should be increased. The more, if the digitization should be done in such a way that more and more students, more and more youngsters, professionals, they should get the scope to get enrolled in higher education in this country. So that is his vision. And he has also repeated his remarks again very recently, 2-3 days back. And all the institutions and universities are preparing themselves to go for a blended mode of education. I can say that according to my experience, after interacting with thousands of students, now there will be two types of universities existing in this world. One is very highly equipped with, I can say, the state of the art infrastructure, highly qualified faculties, universities connected globally, universities, those who have developed a high quality research infrastructure in the campus itself. And those will be the experience based universities, and they will be giving a different type of learning experience to the students through their engagement in different activities, academic, research, innovations, extension together. And those universities will be the catalyst for creating of the opportunities for the students through their connect, through their activities, engagement in the world. And there will be
Okay.
another institutions that will be, I can say, that online, which will be highly inclusive and very cheap. And those who are working professionals, or those who are not able to pay for the higher education in general institutions, maybe those who will be opt for this online education, and they will be interested for getting the certificate and engagement experience they will be gathering from somewhere else. That can be.
Thank you. Basically, an interesting point of view I mentioned about that survey, uh, mm, because it's the contrary what we have been hearing, that as institutions come back to the offline mode, more and more students are happy that they are able to attend the classrooms. But very interesting findings. Meanwhile, just let me introduce Dr. Meena Rajesh. She is the Vice Chancellor of GH Raizoni University, has also joined. Welcome, Dr. Rajesh. So, I'll also request, before I come to our next speaker, Dr. Ashwini, request each panelist to keep the answer briefly to 2 to 3 minutes so that we are able to discuss more points. So, Dr. Ashwini, my question to you is, we talk about accessibility and how this accessibility of education, there are two critical components in this education ecosystem, the students and the faculties. But when we talk about better accessibility, how are these two critical components of the education ecosystem, the faculties and the students, what sort of reskilling, or if I may say reorientation, is required from both these components so that education is really accessible better? So, how are these reorientation challenges, these reskilling
Uh,
challenges, solutions?
Rajneesh, I think what you are saying is talk of the town, that how to ensure that we are able to basically make the education accessible to everyone. Because as per the NEP 2020, we are trying to target a gross enrollment ratio of 50% by 2030. And I think in case we have to meet that, the only way in the country or as a whole as a system is only use of digital technology. And this is what the Honorable Prime Minister, even all the discussion which are going on around country are happening like that only. Why it is so? Because see, one thing is very clear, that COVID has maybe it has become a blessing and disguise for us, in the sense that before COVID we used to say no mobile in class. Now we are saying class on mobile only. That's the basic difference, the mindset which has come. Now everybody says you will have a class, and even the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister of Education also said that we have got around 110 crore mobiles users in the country out of a population of 130 crore. So I think technology is going to play a major role. Now, what is more important to bring both the student and the teacher and to ensure that part is that we have to definitely maybe 40%, maybe 60%. That's a point of discussion, because now even the UGC new chairman is also very open to new ideas on online education. And I, being a member or a chairperson of a subcommittee for national education, national digital education architecture, we have been debating and discussing that how to ensure that we are able to use the technology also. And on the other side, we also want that the education should happen in the campus, because many things you learn from your friends, colleagues, and when you are at the campus. Now, to ensure that we are able to drive best out of this, is very important that we go for capacity building of all three stakeholders. I think you mentioned two stakeholders. I will say rather three stakeholders. One is the parent, because parents also need to understand that they are able to give the right direction to the student or the ward or the son or the daughter, to understand that they have to use the technology for the betterment of the education, not for misuse. Now, second is the student, of course, and third is the teacher. Now, most important part is that we have to go for capacity building of all the three stakeholders. Of course, besides this, there are many stakeholders which include the regulatory bodies, the policymakers, and others. But what is more important is that we have to bring out a concept where we are able to teach to the teachers also how to use the technology for delivery of the lecture. See, when we are going for an online education, I think the best part is that we are able to connect to the best teachers, and we are able to connect to the teacher without any ratio of faculty to student. That's the basic advantage of online education. And that's the reason I've been always advocating for last 1 year, 1.5 years, that even it is a time when it is possible, we may have education as a service. And when I'm saying education as a service, it is just like, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, where there will be a basket of teachers, there will be a basket of subjects, and there will be a basket of university where the student will be free to choose. But I do personally agree, and I will always advocate for that also, that some component of education with the use of technology shall be on campus also. Otherwise, see, the development which is required in the system will not be there. Now, second, as you said, the capacity building. And the second is that we need to basically come out with the course content which are being supported by digital technology also. That is very important, because as on date, the contents which are there, we are making a video, put on the online board, they've been shown to students. I think somewhere some change is required. And I think this is what from my side, please.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question, I'll come to Professor Satyanarayana. My question is, when we are asking about improving the accessibility of education, globally, what we have seen is, in a lot of cases, the academia collaborates with the industry and through centers of excellences or different other mode of delivery. So, what role do you see in India enhancement? There is some sort of collaboration, but how can that improve so that the accessibility of education also as a result improves? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think as you write, we are talking of students with skill, knowledge, and competence, and the competence enabled through actual experiential learning for them to be employable or being researcher, innovators, and entrepreneurs. And this can only happen when there is collaboration with industry. And as far as education is concerned, as you know, today we are close to 6.2 or $6.5 trillion economy, where world over the digitalization is just about 230 to 40 billion dollars, or about 3.2 3.3 in the next 5 years or so. It is supposed to go to 5% when the education market or investment in various enabling tools is going to be about $8 trillion. So that will be about 400 plus billion. So you see, it's global, and in an Indian context these numbers are very low. And already, thankfully, government has made sure that everybody has an access to a mobile, but still the quality of connection, even yesterday, I think myself and Professor Sujata were at a panel, even in spite of being in a panel where everybody were better equipped, for multiple times we lost connection. And how, when we know enough examples of students sitting on treetops to get the connection, even with a mobile that they have from our family. So industry engagement and their investment is very, very critical, because industry also today, the product and process life cycles have become very short, and if they have to be innovating and also need to get better students available. And just again to put a context in numbers, today we have about say 300 million children in education, of which about 38 million in higher education. This is going to be 600 million in India in next 10 years, with about say 100 million in higher education. So these are mind-blowing numbers, and this access cannot happen either only through government or through an education system which is constrained with various fee structures, and we cannot make everybody pay million. We have to literally look at enabling free education if these people have to have true access. So industry engagement is mandatory for they, and they should look at it as their own HR acquirement at a lower class, and innovation research enabling. And we are happy to say that, for example, we as an institute today have created 25 centers of industry academic collaboration, centers of excellence, and every student who comes to our program by default without additional charge, if he's doing a professional program, gets at least access to all as an overview, and certification of at least 4 of them mandatorily for employability if it's a professional program, or 2 programs if it is a school, something like a bachelor, masters in non-professional. And we even work with local ITI, polytechnic and diploma institutions or other schools to give them access to skilling, and also on the government Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, where we are giving them access to some of them. So as you rightly said in the very beginning, the whole digitalized education acts process involves, first of all, interaction, engagement and collaboration. Next is the content, create, share, curate course material. Next is the assessment, assess of learning and sharing and feedback. And finally, it is the course management with managing and organizing classes. All of them, as you said in the very beginning, are digitally enabled. Only then this access can happen, and it cannot be at a very high cost for the student. Therefore, industry academic collaboration is a key enabler, and all will have to have a win-win provisioning in this. And only then, whether it is synchronous, asynchronous, blended, whatever mode, we'll be able to deliver when we have 600 million people under education in India alone, or in next 10 years, or by 2030, we'll have more than 2 more billion people coming into higher education. So it's a key point, as you said. Access and especially digitally enabled access. And this only can happen when industry, maybe either forced or CSR or whatever, in a appropriate, viable fashion, we create a framework for them to engage with academic institution. We are happy to say we have created something, but we have a long way to go to make sure everybody has accessibility.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Satyanarayan. You have sort of opened the Pandora's box. Uh, Industry definitely that recommendation that there should be a framework that can be either through CSR or business model, whatever. But the Pandora's box I mentioned, where you gave the example, the internet connectivity. My next question is to Dr. Sujata, and this is the exact question which I'd like to put. We know the quality of internet connectivity is definitely not uniform across the country. Even the quality of power infrastructure, basic fundamental, is definitely not uniform. And these are the backbones of any technology deployment which we are talking about. So, one, in this, when there is very, what I will say, disparity in standard of internet and power technology across the country, how can academic institution ensure that a standardized education is imparted by leveraging technology? That is one part of it. And the second part of it is, even if technology is available, it comes at a cost. And we know students are coming from different socioeconomic strata. So the affordability cost, how can institutions sort of ensure that it's affordable for all its students? So accessibility and affordability, these two challenges, Dr. Sujata.
So thank you. I think the first question which you, accessibility, I have a data simply says this is NSO report that mere 4% of our population in rural areas having access to computers compared to 23% in urban areas. Higher, in India, higher education system of tomorrow needs to be complemented with infrastructure reforms. So first of all, just to increase the accessibility of education in rural areas, I'm not talking about urban areas, infrastructural reform is very, very important. Otherwise, we are not able to reach to those people who are actually in need of education. And even female ratio is quite low. So how to increase the accessibility, although knowing that the reach is quite low, penetration is low about internet connectivity. So we can first of all, we need to like put funding, and we can improve the infrastructure. Second, the digital library, that digital library which can be uh, accessed by anyone at anywhere. And even government has proposed so many digital library where we can put content, where we can put videos that can be accessed by the students at any point of time. I think one of the panelists mentioned on own space. Suppose the best part of digital education or accessibility is that students can access at any point of time. Even learner, they can, slow pace learner, they can see that video or lecture twice thrice on their own pace. So this is one point. Government is working, all private universities are also working on digital library, so student can access content at their own pace. So this is the one. Second question, what was your second question? Sorry, I missed the second question.
Affordability part. The
Yeah,
affordability.
yeah, this one is like again, affordability is a infrastructure, and we have to create certain policies to make education affordable for everyone. And we all know that digital is the next way forward to teach in higher education or even in school education system. So affordability, we have to put more focus on reaching to the people to start. Anyways, I think new NEP says in each pocket, in each district, there will be a college or schools to cater the students. Suppose that kind of infrastructure and education we are creating and we are giving to masses, affordability can be managed. I'm not sure right now, Other panelists are also here, but that can be managed. Even the government, 40% education is we can take from online. This is the mandate from AICT, given suggestion UGC. The same way, SWAYAM, all EdTech, they can provide, and they are providing certain system so students can access that education. MOOC courses are available, edX courses are available, Academia available, they can access. And that kind of reach we have to increase, rather than they can come to campus and then study. Same time, skill education courses, 6 months they are working on their own pace in our organization, they can access the education. So somewhere we have to create a good infrastructure to provide support for the accessibility of education to those people who are in rural area, are not able to access the education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I'll come to you, Dr. Meena, next.
There's just one thing, Mr. Day, just I would like to add one more thing. Before joining this meeting, I was part of one meeting. Because your partner is Microsoft. Microsoft is giving opportunity to students for virtual internship, and they have defined the number of courses at any point of time. Suppose they are free in evening, they can go for 3 hours of course. So that kind of like education partners are coming to cater the accessibility of education to masses through digital technology.
Thanks. In fact, later during this discussion, we would like to talk about that collaboration with industry in a little more detail. Dr. Meena, I'll come to you next. When we are talking about technology, and what we have seen during the pandemic is when the classes were happening completely online, and even now, as a blended kind of learning emerges, we have heard about these virtual labs. Now, my question is, in labs, normally there's lots of experiential learning happens, and actual industry situation or something, they need to be simulated in labs. Now, when you are doing through virtual labs, how can technology support simulation of these actual situations so that experiential learning happens better? Dr. Meena.
Yeah, thank you all. Sorry, I joined a little late. But anyway, I think the question put up to me is more about the use of technology in labs and the assessment of the practical work. To be very frank, this is a wrong question to me because for a couple of points, I'll just start one by one. First and foremost, our university is in the most remotest part of central India. Okay, it is in Madhya Pradesh. And what Madam had talked about the accessibility, that question goes exactly to me because the reach of internet and the reach of power, I would say,
Sure, you
that is
please go
the
ahead
problem.
with that.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
the problem that our students are facing because our catchment area is the Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, where the students have limited accessibility of even the smartphones. The entire family has got one smartphone, which is accessed by both the kids or the kids whosoever is there at home, including their parents. So when we talk about this entire digital education or say hybrid learning, the first and foremost question I ask to myself, are we prepared, in sense that are we really prepared to handle this particular situation? Leave apart the top 100 universities in India, top 100 colleges in India, in universities like us, are we able to do justification to what we call it as digital education or hybrid model? See, as a private universities, our promoters will definitely invest a huge amount of their fund in creating a digital infrastructure. But to the audience to whom we are catering, the background from which they are coming, do they have that kind of exposure to all of a sudden handle a digital platform? They come from a Jilla Parishad school, they come from a government school where not even a teacher student ratio is maintained properly. With such a kind of a background, all of a sudden, if a student is given an option to opt for which mode of learning you want, which teacher you want to choose, what course you want to choose. Do they have that kind of mindset and an appetite to handle this digital education? The question that I ask myself, and that genuine answer is yet to be, uh, got from the concerned stakeholders. So where one of the speaker talked about the stakeholders, definitely the mindset of the parent, student, as well as the teacher at places like us are yet to be, convinced. We know it is a need of the hour, without which we cannot survive in next 10 years. You need to go digitalized. But then, do we have that appetite? Do the students have that knack to understand what is being taught? For example, the question you asked about having a digital lab. Sir, in our campus, we have 7 colleges, and we have colleges like agriculture college, we have pharmacy college, we have nursing college. Now, tell me, in these 3 colleges, the student needs to have an hands-on experience. Until and otherwise, a student doesn't know how to plant a small sapling, how to sow a seed, how to milk the cows. He or she will not get the flavor of what they are studying theoretically. So, few things cannot go digital 100%. There needs to be a hands-on experience, and that goes same with nursing as well as for the pharmacy. Definitely for management and engineering, to a certain extent, the digital and the virtual labs will do a favor to them. But as I told, we belong to those 500 universities which are there across India, catering to the rural population which comes from the rural background. I think digital education is long way to go. In real sense, I meant to say the quality education, what I'm talking about. Because the moment you say online education, we talk about a lifelong learning. We talk about freedom. We talk about more of taking decisions on your own. Our students are not capable of doing it. Maybe the metro students who are from a good education, from good schools, who have been given a certain amount of exposures, can take up all these things. But the students at the rural areas, we need government support for building up the infrastructure in terms of, number one, the connectivity that is there. And the second important thing is, at the school level, at the Jilla Parishad school level, at the government Panchayat school level, the exposure needs to be given. Are we into it? So that again is a very important question. The capacity building program needs to be enhanced. There should be more workshops, more training programs for the school students as well as for the teachers as to how to handle this whole entire digital infrastructure. As far as our university is concerned, we have, this COVID taught us that let's focus more on digital infrastructure rather than on physical infrastructure. So we have started investing in our digital platforms, but at the same time, we face challenge from our own stakeholders in form of telling, they say, "Humko nahi jam raha hai." We are not liking it. हमको classroom में बैठना है. The students are back in the campus. I could see they are quite very happy to be part of this again brick mortar model. But when we talk about hybrid, somewhere it is going to take a lot of time, and I think it has to be from bottom to top and not from top to bottom. If we are doing it from top to bottom, then it is something like forcing and pushing. The kid is actually not enriching themselves with the knowledge, but it somehow wants to get a degree and going out. So this is what I had to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for raising that very pertinent point in terms of what happens with universities or institutions which are in the hinterland. It's more a socio-cultural issue. 2 important points of the 3 important points, the two you face that can be managed to certain extent, building the digital infrastructure and maybe trying to synchronize something with the school education system. But how would you manage the third part where you are basically asking all the stakeholders, including the parents, inculcate in them that feeling otherwise imparting quality education will definitely be a challenge. We'd like to take this up discussion later. Now I come to Dr. Udani, and I would put the question which I had originally put to Dr. Meena on the virtual labs part. Yes, we have seen emergence of virtual labs, and as Dr. Meena pointed out, there are definitely a lot of subjects where, especially the lab simulations, need to be done face to face or physically in an offline mode. So, how can technology, to certain extent, definitely it will never be 100%, but if we are sort of touchwood even later forced to adopt this blended kind of learning model, how will you manage with these virtual labs?
Okay, I'll answer that question a little later, but whatever discussion I was just hearing, remote place and connectivity issues, devices issues, there is a solution, but unfortunately we have not used it. Classroom education is for limited student. Online education is a mass education. There is a big difference. Okay. So when there is a mass education, you have to reach from a single source to a larger points across the country or maybe across the world. I was part of the ISRO for 20 years, and whatever we have developed there, probably we are not using. Satellite communication is the only solution, broadcasting way you can reach any corner of the country, any corner of the world. And you don't require a hi-fi infrastructure. Connectivity issues are also not there. Satellite communication always works. Bandwidth is also very good. Quality also is very good. And a power kind of a thing, all remote places, small villagers are also using entertainment, using TV and tractor battery or a car battery. So solutions are available. Unfortunately, we have not utilized it. Now another question that is also I'll ask I'll come to that question also. Mass education has to be a 1/10 time cheaper. If I'm paying 1 lakh rupees for MBA program in campus, and if the mass education reach out is for a larger audience, then it has to have a different model. Now coming to the virtualization, say even if no pandemic or no such issues, then also in engineering laboratories, virtualization is always preferred. Suppose I have to prepare certain kind of a material, is a chemical process. There is a certain temperature of boiler, there is a certain heat produced in the boiler. In a physical machine, if I try to do any experiment, boiler will be blasted. Okay. Same thing, if I have to design a communication system, if I don't design properly, entire lab setup is gone. So advantage in virtual system is you are playing with a virtual kind of a thing, nothing is getting destroyed. If your parameters are beyond limit, virtual system will not accept those parameters at all. So it is possible, and many IITs and NIITs have established virtual laboratories, and people who do not have facilities of virtual laboratories, government has given a mandate, virtual laboratories which are available across the country at premier institutions. Access is open to them also, you have to register. And our people were using virtual laboratory at Pune University, Pune Engineering College, IITs also we were using. So options are available, but yes, virtualization is not possible in all discipline. All discipline is not possible. If I talk about professional education, engineering and management, and engineering as of today, out of 15 lakh seats which are available under AICT umbrella, 7.5 lakhs only are getting filled up. 50% seats are not getting filled up. And out of that 7.5 lakhs also, 4 to 5 lakhs are in a IT or IT related courses. Core engineering is dying in India. So when IT is in demand, computer science is in demand, data science and design in demand, then virtualization is what? You need a software, you need a connectivity, you need a laptop, and all softwares are available in your laptop. What kind of exercise you want to do, everything is possible. Virtualization in a hardcore engineering is slightly difficult, and limitations are there. Facility is not available everywhere. But what is happening in the country, that is also required. Most of the students who are entering in engineering discipline, they are interested in IT courses. In IT courses, you don't require anything else than laptop. So all software and all models are available in laptop. You can do anything. Just like some time back, we had tied up with the Coursera. 2,500 courses are available for project guidance. What else they require? Everything is virtualized. But same thing, if I ask them, Coursera itself, they give me a chemical process, within this much time frame, this much raw material should be produced in factory or maybe in a lab. It's not possible. So virtualization is possible, limited in a core engineering, but in a electronics, in a computer science, things are possible and doable. That is my input.
Thank you. Thank you. So we had one round with all the panelists, and I'll come back to you, Shashmita, now. The point is, we heard at least in two cases about how collaboration or partnership with technology solution providers can prove to be critical and maybe necessary also. And that can be for different aspects of technology adoption in academies. Uh, so, how, from your experience, do you see this collaboration with either technology solution partners or with EdTech companies or whoever, these sort of partnerships, how do you see the roadmap there?
Yeah. With the present notification of University Grants Commission just 2 weeks back, they have made it clear that for the certification courses, university can go in collaboration with the edtech industries, and for regular degree courses, they can go up to 40% 40% courses collaboration with the edtech industries. There are two aspects into this. So while we talk about certifications, normally in the universities, we are designing certification keeping an eye on the requirement of the professionals, particularly those who are in the industries for upgradation of their skill. Second type of certification courses are being designed in universities, keeping an eye on the employment perspective of the students, those who are there in diverse courses across all the universities in the country. So two types of certification mostly all the universities are designing, particularly if we see the IIMs and IITs, those who are going for lots of certification courses, they are going either for the upgradation or employment generation, employment opportunity creation, that sort of certification courses everybody is going for. So in that context, I had personally taken discussion with around 57 edtech industries before 3-4 weeks. 57 edtech industries, those who are requesting us that they want to collaborate, including all the big brands like Coursera, Upgrad, Udemy, and many more edtech industries we are in conversation with. And after due discussion with them, since last 2 years we have partnered with Coursera, and as our university is little open type of university, we are making it mandatory for the students to take courses from different schools of the universities. Then another one mandate is that the students should have done some courses from the open MOOCs. So there Coursera, Swayam, those parties come into the consideration. So while we worked with them in last 2 to 3 years in open MOOCs, we found that students are taking it up very positively. Because today I find while I interact with the bachelor students, particularly being in professional studies, our basic focus, most of the focus goes for the bachelor students. There we find lots of interest is there towards innovations. I find my computer science students, they are working in neuroscience, they are using sensor for determining the wave of the thoughts, then emotional intelligence. So the many projects they are doing in neuroscience. So few students we find they came forward, they said that we want to take some courses from neuroscience department. So that sort of flexibility is there for the technology students, law students, management students, even medicine students. Medicine students are taking some courses in cyber law. They are, if they are interested, some courses from forensic. So that sort of flexibility is there. So in last 2 years we found the students, those who are taking up the MOOCs courses, they are going one step ahead. Suppose when we had given them the choice for open electives inside the courses, they were designing their projects, they were designing their, I can say that their business ideas confining to the resources available in and around the university. But while we had given them the option for open MOOCs, while they are designing the projects and their ideas, either the business ideas or technological ideas, they are taking the whole globe into the consideration. So I found in last 2 years that taking their interest and the type of courses they are choosing from the MOOCs, most of the courses, those are not available in the university, and our faculties are not teaching those courses. Many a times we found that sort of excitement in the students. So we are also very much happy that perhaps now we have brought the globe into the basket of the students, and they're opting for that. That was one of the advantages
Okay.
for us. And
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Kindly go on.
You have
Yes.
raised a very important point, and that discussion. And NEP also proposes that interdisciplinary thing, and I'll bring up that during the discussion further. I'll come to Dr. Ashwini now. My question is on the assessment part. Assessment of students is one very important aspect to measure their learning outcomes. Now, when we are talking about a hybrid model of education, what should be the new approaches for assessing those students to measure their learning outcomes? Dr. Ashwin.
See, I think very, very important and very valid point. And this is one of the reasons that many of the students are not keen to come to campus and they want to go for, online education system, because they sometimes feel that once they come to campus and they appear physically in the examination system, they will find some problems. I think it's a well-known fact to everyone. Now, before answering to your question, let me tell you two more important things which one of our learned speaker also mentioned. And I definitely agree with Mr. Udani, Dr. Udani, who I also come with the background of working in ISRO and BRC Bombay. Of course, the last 10 years I've been a Director General with the Ministry of Electronics and IT. That definitely there is no replacement to physical practicals, exams and everything, which includes the exam part also. But definitely in the using the technology, it is possible to have a virtual lab concept. It is possible to have a simulation software, and it is even possible, for example, in our skill university, we are using Lucas, that is a German company-based solution for conducting practicals. And when I'm saying a virtual lab, our faculty conducts the practical and it is being shown to students in online mode. Now, as far as your question is concerned, definitely when we are planning to conduct online exams or online assessment, see, we can have a proctored online assessment for the theoretical component. But for the practical component, the student has to be at campus, because there you can't measure his or her knowledge in terms of practical being conducted by the student. Because see, there, Dr. Meena also said, I do agree with that, that few of the subjects definitely need physical. You can't do a postmortem on online mode. You have to physically at the medical college understand how things are happening. So as far as the exam part or assessment part is concerned, we have to bring changes in our assessment process also, where we have to keep a cap that maximum you can do assessment of in online mode up to particular percentage, maybe 30%, 40%, 50%. But practicals and the so-called hands-on have to be done within the campus only. I think this is what has to be done as a part of the regulatory bodies also.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Satyanarayan, improving accessibility requires building a robust technology infrastructure. We heard about the two important aspects is in reaching out to the students, the affordability and the uniform in quality. And we heard Dr. Udani talking about that there are certain innovative solutions available which might still not be used so extensively, especially the satellite usage. Uh, Other than that, specifically in terms of an institution or an university deploying a very robust technology infrastructure, what are the challenges that are still there? And which, unless those challenges are not mitigated, that this hybrid learning we are talking of will not be fully successful. So, what are those challenges?
I think this is the major challenge every one of us face. This is of quality human resources, and finance is always a constraint, but quality human resources for whether establishing my infrastructure, delivering and maintaining them, delivering instructions, because for all of them, I mean, as Professor Udani, Professor Ashwini, Professor Sasmita, and even Professor Meena Rajesh mentioned, whether it is from simulation to, I mean, actual project-based activity for experiential learning, getting quality people, training them, retaining them, again, in an affordable cost is the first challenge. And even in big cities today, getting people into the academic process is very tough, because if they're qualified, industry hires them. It will be very difficult to get them at those rates in the academic system. So that is where I think innovation has to play a part. I mean, for example, even Dr. Meena Rajesh mentioned about research and say medical agriculture. I am happy to say that because there were some of these issues, we worked with a startup, because today, besides, as rightly mentioned by all others, right from molecular simulation to aircraft simulation, everything we have to do today in simulation, and even create exotic materials, exotic processes. And we actually used robotics, haptics, sensors, virtual, I mean, AR and VR platforms, and all of them, or basic animation today, to along with haptics and sensors, to create what was a 1-2 crore medical surgery implementation facility with our student projects linked to a venture capital small startup. And they're able to deliver a lithotrip, I mean, the basic what is it, the surgery for say the family planning process could be completely done, and with including the pressure to be infected could be measured, and your student could remotely also do. So I say that if we go by the conventional process of finding people, maintaining them, it becomes very difficult. For example, even high performance computing or network storage, I went to the conventional company, he gave me a budget of about say a few crores. We went with a startup and could set up a complete network infrastructure secured, along with any time, I mean, adding up my storage capability for just like say 20 lakhs. What otherwise I would have paid over 2 crores. So that is where I think the teachers and the students should use the fundamentals to understand projects and process in the market, their specifications, and use hands-on experiential learning within their limited means to create some of them, or work with local entrepreneurs. So right from IoT facility to a virtual, I mean, research, I mean, animation enabled, say surgery capability, where student could remotely work, and he would even know, because in session, whether it is the pressure is good enough, whether it is 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter, looking at a screen, to as even doing storage and network. So I think so far the teachers have only been doing to know information transmission. Now they will have to do with the student, learn with the experiential learning and expertise of the student. As again, I always say, as C.V. Raman said, I mean, it is not that just the professor who is one who guides the student, but the teacher also learns from the student equally, whether he is competent or whether he asks a foolish question. In both ways, the teacher can learn. And so if we have to use the new education policy, the experiential learning aspect, start from open source based simulation. When we get something, then maybe work with companies. And we need to realize that, see, if you look at any of the market today, I mean, if you look at, say, conventional global GDP, 85 trillion, 88 trillion is the market cap. I go to health, 60%. If I come into education, where so much is going to be enabled through innovation, the market cap is hardly 6% compared to my education budget today of, say, 6 trillion. So this is going to exponentially improve, and we will have to create this with our student and our projects. And we are best placed with the multidisciplinary teams, because, and so we have to get out of our comfort zone and our silo of working only in my domain, because everything is multidisciplinary. Work with our colleagues, create, even it may be wrong. And as the also just now, Sashmita madam mentioned, get the student excited to work, give the content, ask them to study on their own. Any contact activity should be for more discussion. Synchronous and asynchronous general learning can happen even online, but here it should be discussion for truly solution finding. Using all, therefore, assessments have to be multidisciplinary panel assessment, so that formative assessment, forget and kill the summation assessment, which is useless because it's for clerks. So every stage of formative assessment leads to learning, both for the teacher and the student. And that is where solutions can happen. And see, best of the universities across the globe, for example, Olin University started their education without a syllabus. They said students can do anything they want. From there, they linked the subjects, and Olin has today more patents and more products in advanced communication, to robotics and haptics, to other products. So we need to use this NEP experiential learning and understanding fundamentals and linking it to exciting products, their specification, then going from ground up fundamentals to development. And therefore, I think only innovation, student faculty collaborative multidisciplinary activity leveraging experiential learning can make it happen. If you are going to depend on buying products, it will never happen. And that is where I think we need to change. And that will also lead to that market cap, job production. As I said, education is the only sector where it is just 6% is the market cap. I mean, compared to the sector is going to go to now, as we said, about 10 trillion. So how do I move without this? So it's an exciting time for every one of them, but we need to go in whole hog, and it has to be not business as usual.
Exactly. Thank you. And you had raised very valid points. But I'll ask Dr. Sujata now a little contrarian point to what you had said. Uh, you are talking about the examples of uh, the other extreme where there is no fixed academic curricula. Uh, Even the NEP, to certain extent, these interdisciplinary provisions have this option of a student can take up any course, any subject, any discipline. Now, my question is, we can be flexible, but to what extent we shall be flexible? How do we define the level of flexibility to so that see, there is a scope that beyond a point, being flexible can lead to confusion.
Confusing.
So,
So, yeah,
so what is your
thank
view
you,
on
Mr.
that?
Dev. And actually, Professor Satyanarayanan, I believe, like in ILM, we started our university with a concept of liberal education before NEP, and we had given our students like that kind of mandate that pursue your passion. You can create your own bouquet from different schools, but in a structured format. Because
Absolutely.
Indians, yeah, in a structured format, because Indian
Yeah,
society,
system and design thinking, as we heard. Yeah.
yeah. But in Indian context, suppose a student is taking five courses from different schools. Ultimately, I know that he or she will be multidisciplinary. She will have multidisciplinary approach, which will help in decision making, skill development. But in Indian context, we have to go back to the slate to write in which area he or she majored for employment or skills. So my suggestion is not in an unstructured format, but we can have completely structured format where we
Okay.
can provide flexibility of education, but in a structured way. This is one of my suggestion. Then what I am listening and I'm summing up about this course curricular and structure, I'm just talking about ABCD formula. Somebody talked about alliances with industry. We can't create a structured and robust skill based curriculum either in hybrid mode or any other mode without alliance with industry and alliance with our partner for providing network support. So alliance is important. B, blended format. This is the way ahead. Future is blended format. C, we have to revive the content, context. According to the context, we have to revive the curriculum. What kind of curriculum? 40% we are giving online, and somebody said that stakeholders should be aware about the importance of online. Either we are giving MOOC as a part, or we are giving any other source. They can go for online or blended learning, but they should be aware. Basically, why are we teaching? Knowledge, skills, KSA is a formula. Knowledge, skills, and ability. Keeping in mind, we have to design the curriculum. This is the C. D is important. D is a mode, digital. Digital is a way to reach to masses. I think Dr. Udani or someone says to restrict yourself to the university or go to masses. These are two options available to us. One is like we can teach with brick and mortar in the campus, and the second we can go to masses through digital mode. That is only way to reach there. This is digital is the mode, and this is the ABCD formula ILM has implemented, and we are coming up with more MOOC courses. We encouraged our faculty members to work on MOOC courses, and that will be recorded, and that will go in asynchronic format also. That will be repository to the digital library also. Anytime student can access, and any time they can study. So, and remember, I think you all remember the way we went 20 March 2020 on online mode before prior experience, with the before prior competency, but we all were able to manage. The same way digital is era, and we have to work on infrastructure. We need resources, no doubt, but this is the way forward, which I feel.
Mr.
Thank
J,
you.
just
Thank
take
you
one
for
sentence,
letting me-
half a second.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as Dr. Professor Sujata mentioned, without a structure, without a process, nothing can happen. There has to be a method in the madness, and that is where system and design thinking comes up. That's mandatory. What
Yeah.
I meant to say was all this, and again, without the students' passion, this will not happen. And teachers' benefits have to be clearly shown to the teacher upfront with a strategy. But then create a bouquet, as she said, where they can work within that, they can flourish and do anything. And so we have actually created some of this process and these assignments over, I am talking of last 10 years, 8 years actually. And I'm happy to say, from assignments and projects and multidisciplinary assignments and faculty giving joint assignment and assessing together rather than independently doing it at home and creating formative process with the metrics. See, India's first Pico satellite, a solar car that ran a 2,000-kilometer rally in Australia. Today, my second-year student who are just doing some student sensors and IoT and fabricating sensor between physics, chemistry, maths, electronics, mechanical labs. And they students have today set up a company with a 25 crore infrastructure, both to make second life batteries, because they were also participating in the go-kart and electrical vehicle contest, and a metal all element extraction production facility from waste, lithium ion batteries. So what I mean, everything, for example, a 100 to 200 crore semiconductor facility we were able to make with 20 crores, and a 50 lakh probe station with 2 lakhs with Ambala Industry. So what ISRO, I mean, as Professor Udani mentioned, ISRO, DRDO are our forerunners and inspiration to create some of this. So, or similarly, a 10-15 crore terahertz electron emission source measurement we have done with 55 lakhs. So when I said all of this, I am saying, how do we do it in suboptimal budget? We'll be happy to share all of this, but it's feasible. I mean, in Indian context with limited budgets, but with plan. Again, as Madam mentioned, without plan and without structure, it will not happen. There has to be a clear plan, and of course, some dynamic changes with growth. Thank you.
Exactly. So the plan and structure part is very important. Dr. Meena, I'll come to you, an extension of the question I had asked you earlier. And you had raised three valid points, and I'm still stuck with them. When we are talking about different kinds of digital delivery, but what about reaching out to that wide mass of students? And you mentioned three pain points, where the first pain point, as you rightly mentioned, especially private universities, the digital infrastructure setup can be managed. They will arrange the funding and the finance.
No, even private cannot manage. It is very tough.
So I'm saying maybe at least the private will need to go less of the bureaucratic route to implement that. The second challenge, yes, that will require policy level involvement, but synchronization with the school at some point of time. And we expect within the NAP also that gradually we will start a little better synchronization, even with the government schools and the Zilla Parishad schools that you mentioned. But what about the third point, where it was more of the socio-cultural context, where bringing all types of stakeholders, and maybe in most cases, the students are the first generation learners. So, what technology can do, but more, I'll say, what can be the context in where the universities like yours, they have a sort of, I may say, a national responsibility also to bring more of these first generation learners into the system. So how do you plan to achieve that?
Yeah, it's a very good question and a relevant question to us. Uh, during the COVID, like, we had one good admission session that went on during the last COVID, like, the 21 22 batch, which got admitted was during the COVID. And uh, what we started doing was we started engaging all the schools across in the district in terms of 24 by 7, around 365 days. Our marketing team used to get engaged with these kids across all the schools through some or other activity where they are given a digital exposure in terms of hosting a guest lecture for them, or showing a kind of a, educational videos, imparting training programs for the teachers over there, calling the teachers over to our campus and giving them training programs on various hands-on experience on various tools that they can handle. So the engagement we did, and we to a certain extent succeeded in that engagement, in terms that the students started getting an exposure. Like, few of them for the first time have ever seen an LCD projector. Fine. Could explore Microsoft Excel or a Microsoft presentation, a PPT could be made by them. So that kind of engagement activity we started doing, instead of spending much on the print ads and media ads. So in that way we could do it. And the second important thing was educating the parents about, see, the mindset of the rural area parents are, especially, they get convinced by seeing a good infrastructure, physical infrastructure. But when we talk about digital education, they would say, abhi aapka kharcha to bach gaya hai, like, your electricity is saved, you are putting lock in your classroom, the teacher are sitting at home only, so why you are charging so much fees? Educating them is again a very important task. We had to show them the kind of investment we make on these digital infrastructures, because that again has taken out a lot of our efforts and energy for them. And the third important thing, what we thought was, somewhere down the line before COVID, we didn't give that much importance for updating our faculties on digital education, which we started doing it regularly, because now we found that if we are going to miss out on that line, then we are going to miss a major portion of the cake. So the engagement of the faculty, capacity building program for the faculties have increased tremendous. So these three important stakeholders have been taken care in this way, that at least the students who are going to come, the prospective students, would at least have a first-hand exposure of the digital learning. And when we first time gave them a digital certificate, they couldn't accept that certificate. Matlab, uh, all these things for us sitting here, it is just a small stuff, digital certification, but for them, they couldn't accept that something like a certificate could be given digital. So we are doing actual work right from the beginning scratch, you could say, and slowly building up. And we are quite positive, as the rest of the speakers in the panel have discussed. We are very positive and optimistic, and we want to pass on this positivity and optimism down the line to each and every stakeholder. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Udani, now my question is the assessment or the examination part. We are moving from the traditionally, we are well versed with the content based assessment or the examination, which has encouraged, we all know this learning by rote kind of thing. Now, to a conceptual based assessment, not just only the students, how are the faculty themselves? Because even the setting up the questions themselves will change.
Challenge.
So, how do universities look at managing that, the assessment methods?
I share what experience we have at our university. Very first task we did after NEP was rolled out, we increased the weightage of the internal assessment. Right now, 50% is internal assessment where regulatory norms are not there. Suppose in pharmacy, we cannot do anything because 75% is external and 25% is internal. We cannot do anything. But AICT is liberal. Other UGC programs are also liberal. So it is possible that you can balance your assessment in such a way so that you improve the weightage of internal assessment. 2 years back, there was a public domain documents available from AICT also, UGC also, and both regulatory agencies are recommending that your internal assessment should have weightage of 70% and external should be only 30%. Now, coming to the kind of a assessment we are doing, let me give a very simple example. The syllabus of a 11th and 12th standard for a board examination, central board or state board, and same syllabus is there for a JEE examination or NEET examination, correct? Syllabus is same. But because assessment is so rigorous in case of JEE examination, main or advanced, same thing is NEET. Assessment is rigorous. That is why student learning is happening. So that is the very clear message. Unless and until we are always mentoring whether classes are conducted or not, teacher is there in the classroom or not, my direction is totally different. I'm not monitoring teaching. I have faith in my teaching faculty team. We have recruited all PhD. They are doing good job. Measurement is only assessment and learning, whether learning has happened or learning has not happened. Now coming to the Bloom taxonomy, let us assume in a 2.5 hour of end semester examination, is it possible that you can create a question where you can do the assessment of application, assessment of creation, assessment of synthesis or evolution? Not possible at all. So whatever think tank has given idea to us 2 years back, kindly improve your component of internal assessment. That is what AICT is telling. That is what UGC is telling. Document has come out 2 years back. But many people are not ready to do it because there are certain loopholes. They have given because say it sometime it is there. We are also, when we do data analytics, it happens. The internal assessment is very good and external assessment somewhere they are failing. But in a ERP system, all checks and balances are there. So if few faculty members are not doing the job perfectly fine, we cannot say we will not implement. We go ahead. We have implemented. And every next year we are going to have a 60% internal assessment. Next year 70% external assessment. That is the final goal. So your external assessment is only 30%, and you have an entire 6 month time. And another regulatory, I will consider it is a regulatory cholesterol. Suppose we have tied up with Coursera. How much Coursera component you can embed in your own framework? Certain component will be part of curriculum. Certain component or certification, suppose they have done it, that is the assessment done by the third party. If it is a Google certification, there is no role of Coursera, there is no role of our university, it is done by third party. And that kind of assessment we give value and consider as part of internal assessment. Then group assignment, if we give, and it will last for at least 3-4 months, then you can do the proper assessment. I give you another idea which is useful for everybody. Mostly we are concentrating on a course outcome. And course outcome measurement is very easy task. Somebody is teaching a thermodynamics or any principle of a quantum mechanics. This is the course. These are the questions, either internal assessment or external assessment. Process is very smooth, very clear, and everybody knows it. But when it comes to program assessment, there are no standard tools. All EdTech companies, can you identify a single EdTech company who will give the framework or who will share the framework with us? If somebody is doing architecture program and there are laid down program outcome of architecture, there are laid down program of a chemical engineering, electronic engineering, how program outcome can be measured? Unless and until you measure program outcome, you don't know at what level learning has happened or learning has not happened. So crux of the talk is we need not spend time and energy in monitoring teaching. Teaching is happening. We have to see whether learning is happening or learning is not happening. And learning not at the course level, but learning at the program level. With the program outcome, there is no framework. No EdTech company will give you a framework where we can do assessment of a program outcome. No.
The learning outcome is the critical part.
And that is program learning outcome. Program learning outcome, course learning outcome is easy. Yes,
project-based activities are the only way with formative learning assessment where it can happen, how the multidisciplinary program subjects have been understood and also all skill parameters. That's why we mentioned we have created a matrices for every. So even the student, while writing any project-based activity, he has to say what is the correlation to, say, sustainability, what is it for circular economy, where is the inclusivity. At least let him think inclusive component coming in terms of cost, affordability, their usability or maintenance. So we have added this question, and as Professor Udani rightly mentioned, focused on training faculty first to learn to assess, because assessment is the key in the outcome.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we have always been having great programs, great lesson plans, but outcomes are not happening.
True. So we will just finish, and very briefly, 1 minute to each panelist. I'll start with you, Dr. Ashwini. What are the immediate plans for the next 12 months as far as improving education accessibility in your institution is concerned? Same question to each panelist, 1 minute each. You are on mute.
As far as the accessibility of the education to all is concerned, I think most important parameter which we have to think of is that basically the capacity building or training of the faculty, one. And secondly is that we have to enrich the question banks which we have got, two. And we have to work out a solution where we can go for tie-ups in terms of skill projects or skill development. These are the three things which we are targeting this year.
Thank you. Professor Satyanarayan.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we want to be sure we want to give affordable education for accessibility. And that can only happen when the teachers are able to leverage the student activity to generate research, knowledge base for consultancy and revenue generation. And so we are telling that is only, and we say as more students come, more ideas. So please use them with quality assessment of outcomes and leverage the outcome. So training teachers to do this assessment effectively, more experiential learning incorporated, and seeing how do we enhance our digital platform capabilities, again, to see more analytics of whatever we are doing, to again both assess and effectively leverage every solution to further get more outcomes out of that. So these are teacher orientation, training, and good assessment processing with digital enabling.
Thank you. Professor Sujata.
Yeah, the first point which everybody mentioned is a core, like upskilling of faculty members. They are the resource person who can work on digital mode or hybrid mode or physical mode. The second, we need to increase little bit infrastructure, also more focused towards digital. All the softwares and digital library we can create, so we can reach to masses and we can help them, because anyways we are going in hybrid mode, so that we can help them to have education in our country.
Thank you. Professor Meena.
Yeah, I would sum up saying that our aim or objective is to uh, create or develop dignity for all the stakeholders in terms of dignity of the teacher to improvise the quality of teaching on digital mode, dignity of the students in terms of providing equality in terms of reaching out digitally. So quality plus equality is what our next 12 months work would be, working on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Udani.
I say we were using a Microsoft Team platform for teaching learning process during this online offline mode. So all lectures delivered in classrooms are recorded, and students can access those recorded classroom and they can learn additional things. That is one component. Second component, we have tied up with Coursera, and entire Coursera course catalog is available to the student. They can learn anything at any time. But crucial question is 40% content from Swayam, it is adoptable. Regulatory agency has made it very clear. Now, if a push is to be given, then another kind of a directions, or we have to take initiative from program registration to course registration. I am making a very good statement. Right now, students are registering for program and they are paying fees for the program. If 30-40% content is consumed from Coursera, so not Coursera is not, we cannot do it, regulatory agency cannot allow, but Swayam component, suppose I am consuming 40%, then I cannot charge the teaching kind of a fees. I have to charge only administration charges. So this will be a big bottleneck. If certain kind of relaxations or guidelines are made available, if 40% student can consume from NPTEL, then my teaching load will reduce. Then my student-teacher ratio also should be accordingly reduced. My business model will change, and I can give a freedom. Instead of a program registration, they can come for the course registration, and it can become affordable. Say anything you learn from open source, what is the final objective? Final objective is, if content is available, somebody else has created content, your students are consuming it, then accordingly student must be compensated in fee structure. Then only a big push will come. Otherwise, probably if we charge, say for a 8th semester, right now 8th semester is totally intensive. Tomorrow, due to ABC, it may happen. Student will run away from the institution in 8th semester. What is the teaching learning happening from the university in 8th semester? I will not pay the fees for 8th semester. Simply, these are the credits earned from the Skill Sector Council. You consider my credit, and we are forced to do it. UGC regulations, AHT regulation will force us. So, certain changes are also required at our side, at university side. We have to liberalize it from program registration to course registration. No Gujarati thali, Punjabi thali. I need in a hotel only coffee. I'll pay only for coffee, something like this.
Okay, thanks. Thanks to all the panelists for such an interactive discussion. We could have continued, but we'll leave it here. And wishing all of you a good day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Rajneesh,
all
for the
panel
nice
members. Nice interaction.
coordination and wonderful learning from all the experts in the panel. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to share this platform. It was really great, very well coordinated. Thank you very much. Please.